Hey everyone, it's a great honour and privilege for us today to have the MP for Pakuranga, Simeon Brown, with us. And Simeon's joining us from Wellington today as we're talking. So thanks so much for joining us, Simeon.
Well, thanks so much for the invitation, Peter. It's great to be here. Hope you're well.
Yeah.
I hope everyone watching's well.
Yes.
And I hope that when you watch this, I'm not in Wellington.
Yes. Yeah, it's certainly been an amazing time over this last little while, hasn't it?
It really has been. The last 2 months has been crazy. We've all been locked in our homes. We're probably all feeling a bit of cabin fever, wanting to see people. But look, it's great to see some of our freedoms being coming back. And I think, as a country, we should be proud of what we've achieved. Being able to stop the spread of this disease, and that's something which is partly because of our isolation as a country. We were able to see what was happening and being able to close our borders and quarantine people who are arriving, but also it's because New Zealanders have followed the public health rules and guidelines very carefully and been very diligent, and that's a big thanks to everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. And actually, I mean, just on that, I mean, you've got quite a unique viewpoint, I suppose, in terms of your role in society. I mean, how would you say that you feel that New Zealanders have responded to COVID-19 generally?
Well, I think New Zealanders saw what was happening overseas and realised that there was a lot of unknowns about this disease, and they were very concerned about what it could do to New Zealanders, particularly those vulnerable elderly, and decided collectively as a country that we didn't want to see our health system overrun with sick people, and that was the best way to stop the spread of the disease. And so I'm very proud of what New Zealanders have done. I'm proud of what people in Pakuranga have done, but I also know that it's come at a huge cost, and one of those costs is economic, and the other, also there's social costs. There's also health costs in terms of the other side of the coin, where our health system turned off for the entirety of COVID-19. So there's a huge backlog in people needing, operations or checks or treatments. And so, people have done that. They've sacrificed a lot, and now I think the focus needs to be how we can restore as much as we can and get New Zealand and New Zealanders back in a strong position.
There really has been an impact, and I suppose too, in a lot of ways, there's been an impact to date, but there's still much more of an impact potentially still to come.
Yeah, no, that's right. And shutting down our economy for basically 6-7 weeks is going to have an enormous impact. Shutting our borders, not allowing people to visit New Zealand. Tourism, that's our biggest export, $45 billion of gross domestic product. We're not going to be getting much of that. Our international education sector, that's another $5 billion, that's gone. So we're going to feel the cost of this for many, many years, and it's going to be our grandchildren who'll be paying for this. Tomorrow, which is Thursday, will be the budget, and the government's going to have to announce significant, support for people through that. And there's going to be, huge social ramifications, and it's going to need the community and churches to play a really important role in supporting people through this. There'll be people who lose their jobs, people who lose income. There'll be people who have mental health challenges and issues, who will really struggle, and that's going to require everyone to continue to support each other through this difficult time.
Yeah. So for you, I mean, you basically came into the Pakuranga area in 2017. That's right, eh? When you
That's right.
You elected in 2017. So in terms of this whole thing for you too, I mean, you've come from a background, you've obviously got a strong Christian faith. How have you found being a Christian in this political arena, and particularly?
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating 2.5, almost 3 years now that I've been an MP, and there's a number of people who say that politics and religion shouldn't mix, and by and large, politics and religion shouldn't mix. But it's important that Parliament represents the community, and there's an awful lot of Christians out there, and so it's important that there's Christians in Parliament. And so I guess from my perspective, it's great to be a Christian in Parliament and to be able to bring that perspective to the Parliament, to the laws which are being passed, to the conversations and the policies which are developed within Parliament, but also within my party, the National Party. Yeah. But it doesn't come without its challenges. I think this last 2.5 years has been incredibly challenging. We're facing huge social change at the moment. We've got the law on abortion, which got passed recently to liberalise abortion up to birth. We've had debates on euthanasia. There's going to be a referendum on that at the election, and laws around marijuana. And of course, my faith informs my views on these issues. Around the value of life, the value of the unborn child, the value of those who are old and who are sick and who are dying, and it calls on us to have compassion, but also to protect. And so those pieces of legislation do grate against my values, which are informed by my faith. And it's saddening to see it happen. But at the same time, I came to Parliament and I made it very clear that I would be someone who stood firmly on my conscience, and I would and vote according to my conscience on these issues. And so I know that not everyone in the Pakuranga electorate agrees with me, but at the end of the day, I've been elected to represent the electorate, but also to represent my conscience on conscience issues. And I do that by listening to people, hearing what they have to say, balancing their perspectives, but at the end of the day, I have to vote on things according to my conscience. I have to be able to sleep at night.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's ultimately how, at the end of the day, how I've come to those positions. But it's a challenging time. Those are a huge number of changes in such a short period of time, and that does make it a very challenging environment.
Yeah, and look, I want to say thank you too, just on behalf of I know people, the ones in my church, and those who share our beliefs as well, and that same viewpoint that you have, just for the excellent way that you really have stood up and spoken from that viewpoint, and it's just been so refreshing, and honestly, we've just loved to see it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our quarter, you've got a huge amount of support. And when it comes to things like this, actually, I mean, this is very topical stuff, and I suppose for a lot of Christians, it's easy to take one of the routes. Either you go silent on it, and you say nothing, and bury your head in the sand, or maybe you take to Facebook and rant and rave, and do social media sort of stuff. But I mean, effectively, what is in your viewpoint? What is the most effective things that Christians can be doing when we're seeing things like abortion, euthanasia, marijuana bills, things like that coming through? What's the most effective thing that the church can be doing?
Well, I think there's a number of ways to have influence, and I think a Facebook rant's a good one. But it's so I'd never discount a Facebook rant, because I do a lot of those myself, and I'm sorry if I've inflicted those on you because you like my page. But if you haven't liked my page, you should like my page so that you can be inflicted by them. But I think contacting your MP, you'd be surprised how few people actually reach out and contact. I mean, it's a lot of people. I get a lot of contact from a lot of people. But there's 65,000 people in the Pakuranga electorate. I don't get 65,000 emails when these issues come through, and that means so I think it's important that MPs hear from their constituents, and we get enormous amount of correspondence, but I think it's always important to speak up, contact your MP directly, and I don't think enough people take advantage of that fact that we have such ready access to our members of Parliament in New Zealand. So I think that's one way. I think your vote at the election is an important thing to think about, and you've seen how MPs, your local MP, would have voted on these issues. Yep. And they have a track record, and I think it's important that you consider that at the election. And I think also the other thing which not all Christians are keen on, but it's so important to get involved in a political party. If you believe in a political viewpoint, get involved in that political party and have influence. There's so many ways to get involved in a political party, and I'm not advocating one over another. I'm just saying get involved, because it's important that Christians are engaged at that level.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Hey, look, well, thank you for that, Simeon. We really appreciate your time with us today, and we'll certainly be praying for you and
Thank you.
cheering you on as you continue to make a bold stand in the arena that you're in. So thanks for spending the time today, and God bless, mate.
Thank you so much. Take care.